So this morning I left my apartment for the first time in 2 years without taking my camera. My other camera, my Sony a6400. And I felt like a dog was looking at me like, yo man, what are you doing? You leaving without me? How could you do that? Like, you're actually going to do something without me? I mean, I have not left my home without that camera for 2 years. And yeah, I felt kind of strange about it. But I have my new camera, and I'm starting a new relationship with this camera. And I'm going to be using both cameras on my film, but it just, you know, it made me think about growth and evolution and change, and, you know, how that's an incredible metaphor for life, for art, for everything. You know, we have to change, we have to grow, we have to let go of certain things. You know, for a while I was like, Sony all the way, that's it. And I realized that it's really not about that, it's about the tools. Like, what's the best tool for the job, right? And this camera is much better in low light. It's a full frame camera. It's just got a better overall color science. It doesn't have a strong autofocus, but I'm using manual focus right now. I'm actually using a vintage lens, a Minolta Rokkor 28mm f2.8 to go with this Lumix S5. And on this camera, it's actually 28mm. On my Sony, it's 42mm because it's a crop sensor camera. So this is kind of almost the equivalent range to what my Sigma 16mm was on my other camera, which is kind of cool. Like, I don't have to do that math anymore with this camera. And so, yeah, you know, it's funny because I thought about that and I was thinking, like, I don't mind doing that math. Like, you know, what difference does it make? And for the whole time that I was using that camera, I was like, why don't they just like make APS-C lenses and call them what focal length you're actually looking at? Like, why do we have to do the math? You know, why do you have to do the math in a micro four thirds? Why do you have to do the math in a crop sensor APS-C camera? Like, I don't understand what the point is of that, you know? And, you know, I know 28mm is 28mm, 16mm is 16mm, all of that. But it's just kind of dumb to me, you know? Just, you know, if what you're looking at is 35mm, or if what you're looking at is 52mm, just call the lens a 52mm lens. So, I don't know, I don't get that. But anyway, back to growth. I'm heavily into this next film already. I'm putting together, you know, my kind of map of how I'm going about from point A to point Z and everything in between. And I'm starting to feel the heaviness of this project, you know. I'm starting to feel the weight of the final part of this trilogy that is, you know, my journey with how I feel and, you know, what the search for information about my biological father has meant to my life. Because, you know, up until now, everything's been about my biological mother. And generally, with regards to, you know, anybody searching for their identity or where they came from or who they came from or whatever, it's usually all about the mother, right? But in this case, I'm talking about the father. And I have very limited information on this guy, and I haven't been able to connect with anybody who's been able to help me, and it's been very, very frustrating. Like, I've been on this journey for years now. And it's been kind of deep, you know. It's been kind of like, I don't know, soul sucking in a way. You know, sometimes people say, what do you get out of all of this? You know, like, does it give you any kind of relief? Does it give you any kind of, you know, I can't even think of a word, because what does it give you? You know, like, when you're searching for your biological beginnings and you can't find anything or anybody, what does it give you? You know, like, what does it provide in your life? What does it make better? You know, what is it, how does it uplift you? How does it make things, you know, seem a little bit higher level in terms of your existence? Like, what does it do? What's the point? And that's what I'm searching for in this last part of this project, you know, like, because as I've said, you know, like, after my first play broke wide open and after this last film, The Center of Distance, now this is the end for me. Like, I'm not doing this anymore, you know, like, this is it. This is the final part of the puzzle. And I feel like this is my opportunity to get something out of it, you know, to figure out what all of this means to me. And I'm not sure what that is or what that's going to be or what that looks like. And even though I have a script and I have a beginning and a middle and an ending, and I have what I think is a really great story, I'm very, very open to what this is going to bring to me, and I am positive that there are going to be a lot of changes along the way. Because art for me is a very, very integral part of my real life. You know, I don't really have much of anything else in my life, to be honest with you, other than my work and my art. And I've set it up that way, and I've lived my life that way for a very long time. And so, again, this is the last part. This is the end, literally and figuratively. I mean, that's the name of that's the title of this film. This is the end for me. And this is the final, the final part of the mountain. You know, I've been climbing and climbing and climbing, and I'm at that last part. You know, I'm at that, you know, you start at the bottom and it's not so steep, and you kind of get to the part where you really start to elevate, and then as you ascend, it starts to get harder and harder and harder. And then that last 200 meters, 400 meters, mile, whatever you're climbing, is the steepest part and the most difficult, and the part where you're the most tired. You know, the most challenged. You've already been through so much. You've gotten through storms, you know. You've gotten through fatigue. You've gotten through injuries. You've gotten through hunger and thirst. You've gotten through so much. And now all there is to get to the top. And not knowing if there's anything waiting for you at the top. Well, that's when you got to reach inside of yourself, which sounds like a cliche and kind of, you know, it's what everybody says, right? Like, reach deep down inside of yourself and find what you're made of that's going to get you to the top. But usually you know what's at the top. You know, if you're climbing Mount Everest, you're getting there because that was the whole point, just to get to the top of Mount Everest, you know. And probably there's like some incredible views, you know. But what if you have no idea what is awaiting you at the end? You know, what's awaiting you at the top? What's awaiting you at the finish line? Like, what if you don't have any idea what you're even looking for? You know, what are you hoping for? What's the point? I said it before, I'll say it again. What is the point? That's what I'm struggling with this whole journey. You know, I work so hard. I struggle, I push myself, I put myself through a lot. And the closer I get to the top of this Mount Everest of mine, the closer I get to the finish line of this 400-meter sprint, which is more like a 26-mile marathon, I'm wondering what's the point? You know, like, what am I looking for? What am I hoping for? I don't know. Hopefully I'm going to find out along the way. And back to the point of this whole thing. Well, not the point, but part of this video is that hopefully this Panasonic S5 is going to help me, you know. I got something that's much more able, has much more capability and much more potential. And, you know, I could have done it with the Sony a6400. I could have done it with my phone. I just shot a feature-length film on my phone. It's an award-winning film now. And I keep saying that because I am fucking proud of that shit. But I'm happy to have this because this is more of a manual camera too. Like, I have to really work much harder to make this camera work. I don't even know if this video is going to be fit to post later tonight because I'm in manual mode. It's incredibly bright out here. I can't really see the screen. I don't like running around with an external monitor. So it's really, really hard for me to see if I'm really in focus right now or if my exposure is correct. I think everything is cool. And with the experience that I've gained over the last couple of years, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be good. And I hope that that kind of metaphor carries me through in this film too, like, you know, on a life kind of level, you know, on a soul level, on a spiritual level. I hope that I find what I've been looking for along the way. And I have to admit that I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, because I have no idea what that is. But I do know this, that this right here, this story, this project, this film, that I'm really excited to endeavor upon, but also taking that deep breath, because I know it's the last part of the ascension of this mountain that I've been climbing. You know, I'm getting up through the clouds now, and I'm getting very, very close to heaven. This is the end for me.